Hello everyone, it's early on Friday the 6th of November, our first video in the penultimate month of the year. I thought I'd pause for a few moments and reflect on what's been going on over the past week or so. Obviously the main news is the US presidential election, and as things stand, Joe Biden seems to certainly have his nose in front, but it's not a done deal yet, although overnight he more or less claimed victory, or he didn't actually say those actual words. It looks likely that he will beat President Trump, the incumbent, to the White House. Having said that, we've spoken about it a few times in these videos, and we suggested that it's going to be closer than polls suggest, and we certainly saw that. And we did suggest that there will be legal wranglings if that is the case, and we are seeing that play out. But it's there's still the prospect of a reasonably elegant exit from where we are today. It doesn't need to sort of descend into a constitutional crisis, and markets so far have been actually reasonably buoyant despite the uncertainty through this process. And so we remain confident in the US Constitution. We remain confident in one of the world's great democracies, and we expect that whatever the right result is, it will be alighted to reasonably carefully and reasonably sensibly, and hopefully with not too much of a delay. I mentioned markets. The S&P has actually been pretty strong this week. One of the presumptions around a slightly contested or contentious result would be that you'd get some uncertainty, and markets tend to react negatively to uncertainty. However, the S&P's been up every day so far this week. We're ahead of the US Open as we stand, but up 7% actually week to date, and even stronger over in the land of tech. And one of the reasons for that is the expectation ahead of the election, I suppose, that the Democrats would sweep not only the White House but also the Senate, giving them a much sort of wider, potentially legislative agenda than you might otherwise have. The risk of that seems to, or the probability of that seems to have diminished, and therefore the less business-friendly elements of what Joe Biden might want to have brought in during presidency seem to have been diminished in terms of their probability, and the markets are strong as a result of that. We're in earnings season as well, another reason why markets might be reasonably strong. We've had some really good results out of the States, albeit obviously in sort of chastened circumstances, but results still coming in ahead of expectations, which is really a sort of crucial measure. On sales, we've had 75% of businesses come in ahead of expectations, and the sales figure about 3% higher overall than expectations. And translating that into earnings or profitability, we've had 80% of businesses beat their earnings expectations, and the overall earnings level coming in 18% ahead of what was expected presently, according to Bloomberg data. And that's most of the S&P now having reported. There's a few stragglers out there. Turning to other news, obviously in the UK we've had a return, much as we've seen in other parts of Europe, to a more stringent lockdown. It was announced only a couple of days ago, only started yesterday, and to coincide with it, we saw Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, extend his furlough scheme into March next year, aiming to keep jobs going, of course, for people, keep people in some sort of form of income, and that's obviously much better than the sort of really impactful problem you'd have if you reduce people's earnings materially or cause great unemployment through this period. But that does mean, quite extraordinarily, that the furlough scheme would have been running pretty much for a year by the time it finishes in March next year, which is a pretty unbelievable circumstance to see, particularly, I suppose, during peacetime. Other things that went on, the Bank of England, another 150 billion pounds of assets to purchase on their sort of quantitative easing program, and interest rates were kept flat at 0.1%. So there's plenty of stimulus still out there to keep the economy going as far as possible. But obviously in the background we've got this increased lockdown, but crucially schools are able to stay open, which means that not only are kids being educated as they need to be, but also it reduces the childcare impacts that you'd otherwise would have, and means that people can be more economically productive rather than looking after their children. That's it from me. If you have any questions about your investments, please do get in touch with your Momentum contact, or get in touch with us through the momentum.co.uk website. Thanks, stay safe, and we'll speak soon.